Joe Biden is not a savior of America's soul. He is the destroyer of America's jobs. And if given the chance, he will be the destroyer of American greatness. For 47 years, Joe Biden took the donations of blue-collar workers, gave them hugs and even kisses. And then he flew back to Washington and voted to ship our jobs to China and many other distant lands.
Our commander-in-chief is a total inept buffoon, and he needs to resign, and he needs to do it now.
Joe Biden is a dummy. Dummy, dummy, dummy. Joe Biden is a dummy. Dummy. Joe Biden is a dummy. Joe Biden is a dummy.
So now we're right back where we were 20 years ago. With all of the death, destruction, and expenditure, right back where we were. In fact, it's worse because the Taliban have all the captured U.S. equipment. And Blinken, we don't want to get bogged down.
It's also true that there's nothing that our strategic competitors around the world would like more than to see us bogged down in Afghanistan for another 5, 10, or 20 years.
We don't want to get bogged down. You know, I'm trying to keep my composure here, but this is the worst administration in my lifetime. By far. And it's only 7 months.
I'm sad to report that today is a dark and embarrassing day for the weakest, most feeble president in American history. The American defeat in Afghanistan, thanks to Joe Biden and his reckless, hasty exit, has many facets, as our national security is more at risk now than it was just last week.
Remember the name Robert Gates? Robert Gates was CIA director under Ronald Reagan, became defense secretary under George W. Bush, and also for Barack Obama, and worked closely with Joe Biden. Here's what he says about Joe Biden in his memoir published 2 years ago. I'll read from it now. I think Biden has been wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. That's quite a track record. And nobody sees Mr. Gates as a partisan, really.
Joe Biden has turned our military into a woke joke.
I keep thinking of the words of Robert Gates, Obama's former Secretary of Defense, who said Joe Biden for 4 decades was wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security decision. That's Robert Gates saying that, 4 decades worth.
A new memoir offers a devastating critique of President Obama, his top aides, and Congress. It comes from Robert Gates, a Republican who served 8 presidents, also served as defense secretary in the Obama and George W. Bush administrations.
But I see he didn't make a right call on national security over 40 years.
Well, and I would stand by that during his time as a senator, and particularly from the early 70s until the early 90s. Beginning with voting against the aid package for South Vietnam in the early 70s when we were trying to pull out, to voting against the first Gulf War.
Vice President Biden, former Vice President Biden, hadn't been right on any major foreign policy issue in 40 years.
Yeah, I stand by that statement. I will say, Hugh, it related mainly to things that had happened in the Cold War. Biden voted against every single arms program, I think, that Ronald Reagan put up on the Hill. He voted for the Iraq War and so on.
Say he's been wrong on every foreign policy decision of the last 4 decades. What was he so wrong about in the last 40 years?
You know, it started with voting against assistance to Vietnam, the assistance package at the end of the Vietnam War that basically left the South Vietnamese government high and dry. I think he said with the fall of the Shah that this represented progress toward human rights in Iran when the Ayatollah took over. He voted against almost every element of the Reagan defense buildup, the B-1, the B-2, the MX missile, opposed Reagan's approach to trying to deal with the Soviet Union. He voted against the first Gulf War. So there's a few examples.
I think he has been wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades.
I think he's been wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. Would he be an effective commander-in-chief?
I don't know. I don't know. I think I stand by that statement.
Bob Gates, how much did it sting when he said Joe Biden's been wrong about everything?
Oh, it didn't sting at all, because if you read what he had said, what I said to Bob, I said, Bob, I'm delighted to debate you. I was right about Gorbachev, you were wrong. I was right about Vietnam, you were wrong. I was right about. We just happened to disagree.